Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Drew Kennington Show. Once again, coming to you live from the sunny Indianapolis, Indiana. Yes, we are at the point in the Midwest winter where it's very bipolar. Today we got a nice sunny 70, I think is the high day, and then I think on Tuesday we're going to have a 15-degree day in the morning. So we're in the thick of it, but we're almost on our way out. So we're getting there, guys. Speaking of Midwest winters and things going on, I guess. So last week we mentioned that daylight savings happened. Obviously you are probably aware of that. Um, I don't know if this is an age thing, but it absolutely kicked my ass this week. This entire week I've been grumpy, I've been tired, I've just not necessarily felt like myself, and I could not pinpoint why. I I do like I'm a very routine oriented guy, so I do a lot of a lot of the same things, I guess, every week. I go to the gym the same days around the same time. I eat damn near the same meals like Monday through Friday. So I typically, if something's off with me, I can typically pinpoint kind of exactly what it is that switched up in my routine that caused me to feel a type of way or feel different, feel off. And the first few days in the week, I thought it was just lack of sleep. I'm like, oh, whatever, bad sleep Sunday because daylight savings Monday. But then, like, got to Friday, I've got 3 good nights of sleep in the can, and I'm just grumpy as hell. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I see this TikTok, and this guy's talking about like the same thing I'm going through, and he's like, "Yo, is daylight savings kicking anyone else's ass right now?" And I'm looking into it, and I'm like, "What are some effects of daylight savings?" And it's listing me. It's hey, as the kids would say, it's clocking my tea. It's exactly what I'm going through, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of daylight savings." So I guess it is a sign that I am getting older. When you're a youth, you just kind of these things roll off your shoulder. But I guess when you get to your mid 20s, shit starts to fall apart, and that's the first sign that you are getting up there. So that wasn't really cool. I didn't really fuck with that too heavy, but we got through it. Used the weekend to catch up on sleep. Um, yeah, I guess we're gonna do a few things I did this week off top. I guess why not? Hey, whatever. I had the McDonald's Archburger last night, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it was kind of mid. I don't really eat McDonald's like that. Um, so I went in there, kind of wanting to get a little action. I was hungry, wanted a burger. Sue me. Wanted to get my basic double quarter pounder with cheese. I was like, whatever, arch meal. Picked it up. Kind of mid. So that's the food segment of the show, I guess. Um, I do want to shout out real quick. I got a bunch of new subs on YouTube. I don't know if my shit got picked up by the YouTube algorithm or something, but I had like 10 subs on YouTube for the past month, pretty much, and all my videos were getting like anywhere from like 8 to 12 views. So not a lot going on over there, kind of felt like I was just yelling into a void over on YouTube. Well, something happened this week. I think I got picked up by the algorithm or something, but we got a bunch of new subs. We got a bunch of new views. So we got a lot of new faces, a lot of new eyes on the content. So I just want to say shout out you guys. What's up? Welcome to the show. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen thus far. Um, and yeah, just thanks for coming. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for clicking subscribe. If you're new here, maybe like the video, drop a comment. Let me know. Let me know what you like. Yeah, shout out y'all. All right, so that was the fucking. I don't even know what that intro was. I was just kind of yapping there. But we got some topics we want to talk about today, and we're gonna get into that. But before we get too deep into that, I do want to kind of let you guys know to keep you guys in the loop, keep you guys informed about what's going on here. I kind of have decided on a format for how I want to do the show. And I've kind of been like loosely following this format, but I guess now this is like I've solidified, decided that like this is how we're gonna do things. So moving forward, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like any sports, any politics, anything funny or silly. We're gonna do that at the front of the show. The first few topics we talk about, that's gonna be that. We're gonna have the weekly observations be kind of the divider. That'll kind of be the vibe switch. When you hear the weekly observations, just know the vibe's about to get a little more serious. And then after weekly observations, we'll end it with our like insightful, introspective topics. I like that format because I feel like when I'm on a roll, being silly, being funny, that's when I like to talk about sports and politics because I don't take those things that serious as much as the people on the internet think my political takes are the end all be all of political commentary, I guess. Those topics, I'm just trying to be silly, have fun. But when I do my more insightful things, I kind of like to get in my bag a little bit. And I want to have a nice buffer. So we're not getting silly. And then all of a sudden, I'm in my bag. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting silly. And I'm taking you on this emotional roller coaster. We're going up and down together. I'm not trying to do all that to you guys. All right. So that's the new format. I guess look out for that. So, yeah. All right. Let's get into our first topic today. I want to talk a little bit about NFL free agency. Not necessarily the entire overarching newsworthiness of NFL free agency, because a lot of it I frankly don't care about. I mainly want to talk about what the Colts have done and why I feel not super optimistic about the direction the team is heading, at least for the next few years. But before we get super doomer, we can maybe list a few positives about what the Colts have done this free agency cycle. And the first thing is trading Michael Pittman. I've never thought that he was a surefire wide receiver one. He just never really he doesn't have it, if that makes sense. He doesn't have that like, okay, we need 15 yards. I don't care who's guarding him. I don't care if they're triple teaming him. Go find Michael Pittman Jr. He doesn't have that dog in him, so to speak. So whenever he was our wide receiver one for the past, 3-4 years, I just felt like that was hindering us. So the fact we were able to get off of him and his contract, even though I think we only got a 6th round pick and we had to give a 7th round pick to get rid of him, I think it opens up the door for people like Alec Pierce and Josh Downs to actually get those touches and actually develop into what they are capable of. Do I think that Alec Pierce and Josh Downs are necessarily wide receiver one material? I don't know. I think Alec Pierce could be. He's a great deep threat. We saw last year. He had a 1,000-yard receiving season. That was insane. Josh Downs is a maybe. He's a really solid slot guy. So but it opens up that door. We're having this identity crisis at wide receiver, and I think getting Michael Pittman out now will help us kind of really build that wide receiver room up to something where we can be competitive. We got Tyler Warren now at the tight end. We got JT in the backfield. Like, we're one solid receiver away, and a quarterback, but we'll get into that, away from being like really filthy on offense. But I do want to say shout out Michael Pittman because I do think he's going to excel very well in Pittsburgh. Like I said, I thought he was a low-end wide receiver one, but he's a very high-end wide receiver two, in my opinion. The only problem is we never had that wide receiver one that he could complement, and then we could be like, Michael Pittman's nice. Like a Jalen Waddle type of role. Never really had that, so I think he'll do well in Pittsburgh. I'm just glad he's off my team. We already kind of touched on it, but shout out Alec Pierce. Thank you, my boy, for coming back and getting that bag. I was fully convinced that Alec Pierce was going to be a Buffalo Bill or a Kansas City Chief. I would have bet lots of money on it, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm glad that he's back and we get him locked down for the next 4 years. What I'm not glad about, you guys, listen. I don't know how many times I've talked about it on this show, if I'm being completely honest. I know it's probably been a few, and it's this whole Daniel Jones saga. I don't know if I'm crazy, if I'm the only one that looks at it like this, But I think Daniel Jones is not the answer. I feel like every time I see anything or hear anything about Daniel Jones, it's everyone always just speaking so positively about him. I looked up no, okay, I don't want to like act like Daniel Jones is like some massive like piece of shit or something. It's just I whenever I see people talk about the Daniel Jones move in Indy, they always praise it so heavily and they act like he's the next Sam Darnold or something. And I feel like because of people like Geno Smith and people like Sam Darnold who have had this kind of career resurgence within the past, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, whatever it's been, you see someone like Daniel Jones who fell off and then had a good start to last season, and now all of a sudden people think like, oh, so he's the next Sam Darnold. Because nobody wants to be the Minnesota Vikings, where you have a Super Bowl contending quarterback, you let him go to Seattle and he goes and wins the thing, and then you're stuck with J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray competing for minutes in your QB room. So you don't want to do that, but at the same time, I just don't think Daniel Jones is one of those guys. I looked up this whole Daniel Jones signing because they paid that man 2 years, $88 million with potential to be up to $100 million. They paid that boy $44 million a year. I looked up some free agency grades thinking that people were going to be ripping into the Colts because I thought it was insane. No, everyone's kind of like, wow, what a great move for Indy. What? Wow, Indy gets their guy back. But what? It's just very frustrating because I feel like I'm the only person in. I'm not even a sports commentator, but I feel like I'm like one of the only dudes that's just kind of like, are we for real? Is this what we want? Is this the guy? I don't know. Maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe you guys can hit me in the comments and hit me with some fat I told you so's. But I just don't think that he's necessarily the answer to all our problems. I feel like he's just prolonging the whole plug and play QB situation that we've been dealing with ever since Andrew Luck retired. So we'll see. We'll see. Also, the Colts. I just feel like I don't know, man. Like we got rid of Zaire Franklin. We lost Quiddy Pay, which I guess we weren't really expected to re-sign him. We lost Braden Smith, who was a key piece to our O-line, which has kind of taken a bit of a nosedive, I feel like, in the past couple seasons. Once Costanzo, he retired a minute ago, but Ryan Kelly and some other guy that we had on, they all left. So I feel like our O-line was already kind of like, uh-oh, and then we lose Braden Smith too. And on top of that, like Zaire Franklin's gone, Quiddy Pay's gone. We lost Nick Cross. Uh, I don't know, man. The defense was already kind of sketchy, especially our secondary, and now we've kind of lost a lot of key pieces. I mean, we brought in Jonathan Owens. Shout out Simone Biles. Like, if you want to come on the pod, Simone, let me know. I'll get you in here. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this current Colts team. People still seem to think we're Super Bowl contenders. And again, am I crazy for thinking that we're just not? Like, I don't know, man. I don't want to be like a doomer about it all, but I just don't feel like it's necessarily as good as shit seems to be. I feel like we're at best going to be like a sneak in wild card team. I don't think we're necessarily Super Bowl contenders, but we're spending money like we are, which is that's the problem. If like we were just kind of throwing a team together, I'd be like, all right, whatever. But we're spending money like we're like fucking like one player away from winning the whole the whole thing, and it's like I just don't think we are. I think I don't know. I think we're at best a wild card team, at best like maybe a divisional round exit. I I don't know. So shout out Indianapolis Colts. I mean, you are my team, unfortunately. I thought about jumping ship. I'm not gonna hold you. I thought about jumping ship last season, but I just can't. I've been a Colts fan my whole life, so it's at the point now where it's like I'm kind of stuck with y'all, respectfully. So I guess the captain always goes down with the ship. So we're in this one until the wheels fall off, unfortunately. But we'll see. I think once we'll have an answer in the next 2 years if this is, actually something worthwhile. So I guess we just have to wait it out. But yeah, shout out NFL free agency. It was kind of crazy. I don't know if there's anything else really I want to touch on it with it. I mean, like the whole Kenneth Walker going to Kansas City was kind of insane. I didn't think the Seahawks were going to let him go like that. The Max Crosby thing was wild, getting traded, and then your team goes and spends hella money signing players, and then the Ravens are like, oh yeah, by the way, we don't really like want this guy. He failed his physical, and then you just have this guy back on your team. That happened in the NBA last year. That's always so funny because like you get traded and you're like fully you're gone. You're like, all right, cool. I'm out. I'm here. I'm going to this new place, and then you're just like back. It's like breaking up with your ex, and then you're out and about, and you're like, man, I'm ready to start this new chapter in my life, and then like your ex is pregnant. You gotta go back to her. Like that's kind of what this whole thing is like. So it's a little unfortunate. It's a little funny, but yeah. So yeah, nothing too much on NFL free agency. Nothing really that crazy happened. So we'll move on from that. The next thing I want to kind of get into here is the Iran war. Um, Listen, I don't know how deep I want to get into this, but I do want to at least say and preface that this whole thing is getting a little weird in my opinion. Like I've tried to stay away from it all. I understand that there is importance in kind of being in the know about what is happening in the world, and especially when it involves your country in a potential global conflict. So I understand the idea of being informed. But when you get a little too informed about what's going on here, you kind of get scared. It scares you a little bit, and I don't like to be walking around my day carrying this scaredness in my back pocket. So I haven't been too in the weeds with all of this, but there is some things that I have kind of tapped into that I find very scary. And that the first thing is these potential false flag attacks that seem to be happening. Like there was the one in Saudi Arabia that there was a drone strike on a Saudi Arabian oil field or something along those lines. Like I said, I'm not too tapped in, so I don't know all the details. But basically, what happened is a drone strike attacked some Saudi Arabian oil facility, and Israel came out and was like, "Yo, that was Iran. Iran did that. That was Iran." And then Iran comes out and they're like, "That wasn't us. We didn't do that." And then the Saudis look into it, and it's just kind of like they're like, "Yeah, I don't think that drone came from Iran." Same thing happened in the UK. There was a drone strike on one of their oil facilities. Israel's like, Iran, that they did that. That was Iran. Can you believe that Iran just did that? And then Iran comes out and they're like, we didn't do that either. And the UK looks into it and they're like, yeah, we don't think that was an Iranian drone strike. So it's like, well, who do you believe? What is going on? Is Israel are they trying to do the whole false flag thing where they're going around just bombing people's shit and then trying to blame it on Iran to get everybody else involved in this conflict and create a global scale war? Like, is that the goal here? What is happening? And that's not even the scariest part. There's the whole California situation. Like the FBI comes out and they're like, hey, California police departments, you guys might want to watch out for an Iranian drone strike. You might want to keep your eyes peeled for that one. And then you see stuff coming out about the same dude that bought the Twin Towers 6 weeks before 9/11 happened, just bought the biggest building in, I think it was Los Angeles or whatever. It's like, are we about to get fucking, are we about to get bombed by our own people? Is that what's about to happen? Because there's no way in hell that an Iranian drone would be able to cross the Atlantic Ocean, I think it's Pacific Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, fly over, all that landmass, come over the Pacific Ocean, get close enough to the West Coast that they could just bomb key sites? Do you really think that that's possible unless we let it happen? There's no way that that could happen unless we let it happen. We're the strongest military in the world. We got military bases everywhere. We got fucking boats everywhere, bro. Bro, we have like the best radar systems in the world. Like a lot of my tax dollars go to this American military. You're telling me you can't track a drone? You're telling me if one of them's coming for our West Coast when we're in the middle of a conflict, not a war, a conflict, that you can't track it and shoot it down? So I don't know, man. Keep your eyes peeled on that one. It is extremely unfortunate that that's the state of our trust in the U.S. government, that if there were potentially to be a quote-unquote terrorist attack on the West Coast, my first thought would not be, holy fuck, the Iranians are, trying to invade America, or they're trying to get their lick back on America. My very first thought would be, this was an inside job. This was an American attack on American people. So that just kind of goes to show, and I'm not the only one thinking that. That's like, I feel like a pretty common thought. And it's just unfortunate that that's where we're at. That's kind of where the American public is with their trust of not only this administration, but just the American government in general. Because I don't want to put all the blame on the current administration for this whole conflict. Obviously, they are kind of the driving force in this. I mean, they're the ones in power, so they're kind of the driving force on this. But at the same time, it does not seem like Democrats are doing anything to stop this. And the more I look into it, and the more I hear about why it is they're not, the reasoning is so, it just goes to show how corrupt everybody is. It's not a one party thing. Everybody's corrupt, and it's the prevailing what word am I looking for? I guess narrative is that the Democrats want this just as bad as the Republicans. So they're not necessarily doing anything to stop the Trump administration from doing this. And they also know that the American people don't necessarily want this. So they want it just as bad as the Republicans do. And they also realize that if they allow Trump to go through with this, his popularity rating will probably drop. So then now they can either, swing these midterms or get whatever it is, whatever their grand scheme is. So it's all just a bunch of fucking bullshit. It's all just people who all they care about is power, and all they care about is making one side look bad, and all they care about is getting their people in position of power. It's all corrupt. It's all bullshit. Everybody is involved. Everybody's to blame. This is not a, ooh, Trump's the problem thing. No, everyone is involved in this, and everyone is just as bad as the rest. But with that being said, I mean, Trump is just kind of, he is just kind of doing whatever he wants with this whole thing, which is a little scary. Like that's the biggest thing about it. It's all just kind of like a little scary, because it's like he is just kind of doing whatever he wants. He's just kind of going in and doing what Dick Cheney wanted to do. And they're saying, I was listening to a Tim Dillon podcast, and he had a couple guys on who were talking about it, and he was saying, one of the third guy reporter was saying that this is exactly what Dick Cheney wanted to do, but he tried to play by the rules, and he could never make it happen. Whereas Donald Trump just like said, "Fuck the rules. I'm gonna do what I want." So it's not very assuring. It's not very nice to be in this situation, because it's all what we expected. It's the whole narrative of like, oh, it's gonna be a 1-day war. We already won the war. Day one, we won. Why are we still there? Why are we still dealing with this? Oh, maybe because this isn't even our war. This is Israel's war, and we're being their pawns. We're just trying to invoke this entire Middle Eastern region and destabilize the region for what exactly? I don't know. Let's go ask Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the mastermind behind all this. We're just the pawns. Our American citizens are just dying because that's what Bro wants. Whatever he wants, right? It's just a little stupid. I hate it. And like I said, I try not to be too in the weeds about it. I try not to listen to too much about it. But it is, you can only do so much to avoid it. And at the same time, you do want to be informed just a little bit because it's a fucking potential global conflict that it involves my country where I live. So yeah, we're gonna move on from that. I didn't I didn't get too mad. I'll be honest. I thought I was gonna get a little more mad during that segment. I didn't. That was pretty chill. We're gonna move on to our weekly observations. Yes, woohoo! If you're new here, weekly observations is just things I noticed throughout the week that I just want to give my little 2 cents on. Don't necessarily have a whole segment on. Just hey, a couple little words here and there. The first thing that I observed this week: Bam Adebayo's 83-point game. Now, this okay, when I was watching it, I didn't watch the entire game. I turned it on with about 9 minutes to go because I got the notification, probably like everybody else, that like, hey, Bam Adebayo has like 70 something points, and there's like 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I was like, all right, give me some of that. So I tapped into it, and in the moment, I was so consumed by it. I was like, this is insane that he's actually going to get this record. He's actually going to, maybe score 80 plus points, maybe pass Kobe. And I kind of didn't even realize in the moment how kind of absurd the whole thing was. And if you didn't watch the game, if you don't know what I'm talking about, typically when NBA players score a lot of points, they just get taken out of the game. Like there's been plenty of examples where players have scored like 60 plus, 70 plus, and then the game is getting out of hand, so they just get benched. Like the famous one that kind of gets brought up is Joel Embiid. He had 70 points in the third quarter of a game, and they took him out because they were winning by a lot. So that's kind of what happened here, except Bam Adebayo didn't get taken out of the game. He just kind of stayed in, and they were up by 30. And so they really had nothing to play for. So you have Bam Adebayo, a bunch of scrubs, and they're just giving him the ball no matter what. It's like they come down the floor, give him the ball. He's getting triple teamed. He's not passing it. He's putting a shot up. And he was basically kind of foul baiting his way to 83. And again, in the moment, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really crazy. But then as it kind of sat with me and I kind of thought about it some more and kind of saw some people's perspectives on it, I was like, yeah, that was a little dumb. Like, you got 83 by just going out foul baiting and against a team that was ass. It was the Washington Wizards, and you were already up by 30. Like, just sit down, bro. Take your 75 and sit down. And my whole take on it, I think, is it's because he passed Kobe. That's why I feel like a lot of people are so mad about it. Like, I feel like if he would have stopped right at 80, we maybe would have been like, oh yeah, he foul baited a little bit, but that was kind of crazy. Bam Adebayo scored 80 points. But the fact that he passed Kobe, broke his record, it kind of puts like a bit of an ill will, I feel like, in the mouths of a lot of people. Because Kobe, he was Kobe. He was that guy. And you just kind of pushed him down the record book a little bit by foul baiting bullshit. I don't know. People seem to be mad about it. I guess I don't really care too much, but I can understand the frustration. The next thing that I observed this week, Donald Trump endorsed Jake Paul. What are we doing? What's happening here? I don't. You know what? I don't even want to talk about that. To be honest, I'll just leave it at that. That happened, and that was pretty stupid. That's what we'll leave that at. I really don't feel like talking about that. The next thing that we have observed this week, blue collar culture is a little weird. Okay, and I'll kind of break down how we got to this point, how I ended up in this area of thought. So I work a blue collar job. I I enjoy it. I like the hands onness and things like that. But there is a culture around blue collar work that I've always just found a little bit weird. You know, I one of the things that I've always felt super weird about is this idea that guys feel like really proud, really fulfilled by working 70 hours a week. You know, and I get it. You know, I get the fact, I get the idea that you want to work hard, you want to be, I don't know, a manly man and put food on your family's table. But at some point, you got to realize if you're working like 55, 60 hours a week every single week, brother, you're a victim. You know, this is not the way to live your life. You are basically selling your body, in a sense, to what, make, I don't know, 1,500, 2 grand, whatever it is, 2 grand a week, whatever it is you're making. Like that's how much your life and your body is worth. So I don't know. It's odd. I thought I had more on that, to be honest, but I guess I just don't. I didn't feel like going in on my blue collar dudes. So I don't know. That wasn't. Anyway, the last thing I want to talk about here is I watched the Counting Crows documentary this week. And for some of you who don't know who Counting Crows is, it's a band. It's an early 2000s alternative band. And the reason I watched this documentary is because I have kind of been getting into their music lately. You know, it all started with Mr. Jones, obviously their biggest song. Then it was Hanging Around, and then it was Long December, and then it was what is it, Big Yellow Taxi. You know, like those 3 songs or 4 songs, I was like, man, these are slappers. And that's kind of what I left it at. I just listened to these 4 songs. I thought they were just kind of like a hippie, not really hippie, but just kind of like a alternative, like Sublime esque band, you know, like kind of just stoners who just be singing. And didn't think they were that popular. So I listened to these 4 songs. I was like, oh, cool. I'll check out their Spotify page, you know, see kind of what's going on. Maybe I can find some more songs I like. And I saw that Mr. Jones had 1 billion streams. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Mr. Jones got 1 billion? I thought it would have like 25, 30 mil. I didn't think they were like that. And then you look at the band, and back when they were making these songs, the lead singer's a white guy with dreadlocks. Time out. Time out. Flag on the play. What do you mean you got a song with 1 billion streams and your lead singer's a white guy with dreadlocks? I need to know more. So then I watched a documentary about it, about the band, and about, I believe his name was Adam Duritz, the lead singer. And there's a lot of lore there. A lot of lore there. But one of the things that I kind of picked up on that I thought was interesting was how the narrative on their lead singer kind of flipped once he got to a certain level of fame. And I feel like we kind of see that a lot in Hollywood, where it's like people find vulnerability very endearing until you're like rich and famous, and then all of a sudden it's like a problem. Like for Counting Crows, for example, their first album was very um, it was a very emotional album. It was their lead singer kind of speaking out his own personal grievances and using this album as a medium to express those thoughts and those feelings. People ate that shit up. 7 million copies sold. It was their first album. They went on this whole tour, whatever. But then years go by, and all of a sudden, this same guy who drops this album, basically like vocalizing his struggles, is still, you guessed it, struggling. And now all of a sudden, it's like, ah, bro's whiny. Like, oh, bro's this, bro's that. And it just goes to show how quickly people can turn on you once they feel like you have this level of success that's supposed to cure all of your insecurities and cure all your bad thoughts. Because it's like when you're up and coming, when you're struggling, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, it's okay. You can struggle, you can have mental health problems, but all of a sudden you're like a multimillionaire and you're very successful, and it's like, why are you sad? You got all this money, you got all this fame, you got this entire life that everybody wants, and you're sad. Man, you're miserable. I hate you. Blah blah blah. It's like all this jealousy and all this envy is built up, and you're just supposed to like be Mr. Smiles all the time because you have this quote unquote life that everyone envies, that everybody wants. You have it. You have the silver fucking spoon, bud. You got to be happy. So I found that pretty interesting. I will say it doesn't help that, like I said, he was a white guy with dreadlocks, and he was back in the 90s during their run. He was bagging Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox. So I don't think it necessarily helped, the people not hate him, because when you see a guy that looks like that and he's dating the heartthrobs at the time, you're kind of like, yo, fuck that guy. So shout out Adam Duritz, shout out the Counting Crows. Um, yeah, they're pretty cool. I like their music. That is the end of the weekly observations this week. So now we're going to get into our introspective segment of the show. And what I want to lead off with for this week's segment, I guess, is a commentary on a video that I saw last night, and this just the overarching idea of what it is that kind of comes with it. To paint the scene, I watched a video, and it was a guy. The caption of the video said, "The chosen ones are unemployed." And I was like, all right, yeah, I gotta watch this. What is this? And it was basically this guy just explaining that people who are the quote unquote chosen ones, the people who are in essence spiritually and emotionally aware, can't work a normal job because they're just so in tune that they don't want anything to do with what it is. They want to go find their own path. And the message itself wasn't necessarily bad. It wasn't like anything wrong with the message. There is a certain realization you come to when you look at the kind of systems that we have in place, and if you kind of look intently at them, there is certain aspects of it that you think, oof, I don't know if I can get behind that. So you do kind of want to create your own path. So I understand that. It's just the language used when describing people who are, spiritually aware as the chosen ones just kind of really fired me up, if I'm being completely honest. Because there is this kind of attitude and energy sometimes about people who have had these quote unquote spiritual awakenings, where they act like it just makes them better than everybody else. They act like that, okay, well, I've had this spiritual awakening, I've quieted my mind, I've done X, Y, and Z, and now that I've done that, I've ascended the rest, and now I am up here and I am better than all of you. And that shit pisses me off so much, because that is the complete opposite of what it is you're supposed to feel, or what it is you're supposed to accomplish when you reach that elevated state of consciousness. Like the whole point, the whole goal, so to speak, of religions, of all these people in this like spiritual hippie guru space, is to reach a state of enlightenment, reach a place of heightened consciousness, and basically kill your ego. You hear the term ego death. That's kind of that's kind of the goal. That's kind of the purpose of engaging in those acts, engaging in a spiritual practice, engaging in a religious practice. But when you allow that to just amplify your own ego, it completely negates anything that you've done in regards to it. All you've done is taken this spiritual whatever, and just attached your identity to it. So now, like, you think that you're spiritually aware, but really all you are is just allowing the ego to attach onto that, and you're identifying with it, because the whole purpose of it is to lose your identity and just become a human, become a part of the overarching oneness, the collective consciousness, so to speak, realizing that we all are one, the richest man and the poorest man, we're all the same. There's nothing that separates us except our own egos. And when you detach yourself from that ego, you realize we are all connected. But then when you use that detachment as a way to prop yourself up, in a way to, I don't even know, amplify your own bullshit to where you think you're fucking all that in a bag of chips because, oh yeah, I meditated one time, or oh yeah, I read this book and I learned the ideas behind the ego, and it's like, okay, cool. Now you're just like at a heightened state of consciousness. You're not better than anybody. I don't know. That shit just really got me fired up because I was like, that's just no disrespect to whoever that guy was, but it's just like that's just kind of this like idea you see online, and I feel like it just gives a bad rep to religious communities and spiritual communities of people who actually are, using these experiences and using these elevated states to just better themselves and better the world around them. You got people who go online and just make a fool of themselves. So I don't know what the opposite of a shout out is, but yeah, maybe just don't do that. If you do find yourself in that position, just realize you aren't better than anyone. You are just a human at the end of the day. Okay, so you might have just noticed that there was a bit of a slight cut. I got into a bit of a segment, realized I didn't want to talk about it all that much, if I'm being completely honest, and about a minute in, I kind of burnt out. So I'm going to cut that out, and I think we're just going to end the show here. I'll be honest, I didn't feel too great about this episode. I don't know, just something was off, but we still showed up. We still got it done, because that's what's important, guys. You always got to remember that whenever you're doing something new, whenever you're embarking on a journey, not every attempt, not every time you do it is going to be perfect. But you cannot let that deter you from showing up, because consistency is how you build momentum. And once you get momentum, that is how you see the change in your life that you want to see. And this episode, I feel like, could be a testament to that. I don't feel like it was my greatest episode. I felt a little weird throughout the filming of it, but we still showed up. We still got it done, and we still have the momentum and the opportunity to be better. So I do want to thank you guys so much for listening today. Don't forget to rate 5 stars on Spotify. Do not forget to subscribe, like the video, comment, interact with the socials. Go follow on TikTok. Go follow on Instagram. Like the videos. Drop some comments. Interact with it in whatever way you can. Like I said, if you're new here, let me know down below. Let me know what you think of the show. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you guys very much. And I will see you next time.